Graham, well, first of all, as the director of the centre hosting this event, can I just add my thanks to Professor Monks and our other speakers and panellists, and to everybody who's joined us today. So next slide, please, Hannah. With a focus on how best can researchers respond to the challenge of finding and actually enacting solutions, I want to quickly share a couple of examples where we've used and indeed developed our research to support economically and politically feasible policy decision making, but with the processes really involving multiple engagements and partnerships, not only with policy actors, but with industry colleagues, with funders, with the wider policy stakeholder community and civil society more generally. Next slide, please, Hannah. First, I picked carbon capture, use and storage as an area of net zero activity that I think continues to raise both unique and also more generic challenges. And the example here relates to some of our earliest work in the area, involving how we use evidence from our wider economy impact research to inform economic narratives to support policy strategy development, and particularly building consensus across key stakeholder communities. And the context here was the run up to and the end point with the 2018 CCUS action plan that emerged from the process around the CCUS cost challenge task force, which was composed of key technology and industry stakeholders. Next slide, please. And at the top here, we have the outcome. We were using our research to underpin political economy narrative development and playing a role as the people generating the evidence and communicating it to build consensus around the stakeholder community that was represented by the CCUS Cost Challenge Task Force. And here we're showing in the slides, we went through a series of stages in building towards this outcome that involved, first of all, doing the research, but then almost more importantly, developing engaged relationships and partnerships and drawing on our research base in very specific ways so that we could achieve the outcome of actually building consensus around UK carbon capture strategy in an industrial context, being focused very much on sustaining jobs and on other economic value that's currently generated in the UK's manufacturing cluster. And so this was successfully done, and it came through the CCUS action plan. But next slide, please. I think something that's really important here is this further enriched our research base at the Centre for Energy Policy, working alongside the political scientists in our School of Government and Public Policy here at Strathclyde, both before and after the consensus building work, which is quite new to applied economists like us. We were able to develop a better understanding of the nature of the social science that's actually involved in using our economic research in effective ways. And we actually published on this both in the political science literature, where the 4 points on the left were really the insights about the model of how we were using our evidence to build consensus and inform the policy process. And so we published in the political science literature, but also in a more user-facing publication, the civil service world, so that we're kind of building a wider understanding of this process of actually affecting change. And next slide, please, Hannah. And in turn, then, those learnings that were developed between 2018 and 19, that helped us better prepare and consider how best we could co-create useful impact from our research in other contexts, such as the example here, where we were focusing on the type of wider economy analysis and models that we've developed in our research, how they can be useful in considering the case or not, but fortunately it was the case for public support of residential energy efficiency programmes in a practical wider economy context and landscape. Obviously, last year we were very much living through the kind of brunt of the COVID crisis and really starting to recognise the need for recovery. So next slide, please. Here, I think, different to the CCS example, we were building on a substantial research portfolio that built up over at least 10 years. But really the challenge here was how we further refined and focused our learnings to make them useful and transparent and understandable to a wider policy stakeholder community. And here, our next slide, please, our relationships and collaborations, both with policy actors at BEIS, but also the NGO community, were key. And I think this was particularly in terms of the role of intermediaries, that even though we can talk about our research, we're not always the best people to do it. We were communicating kind of grassroots bottom up with BEIS analysts, sharing their analytical methods and insights. And at the same time, our partners in the NGO community were able to pick up on the research findings and talk to a wider group of actors. And so I think really here is that we were finding the most effective ways, and you can see here in the slide the kind of how it happened list. And it stretched from our core research foundations that were supported by the UK research councils, but then taken forward through these impact acceleration projects that EPSRC does, where our work there involved a partnership with BEIS on this grassroots bottom-up side, complemented by what I just said about NGO partners and others talking about our work to key policy actors. So from that, where are we now? Well, I think we're still learning and delivering learning about how we better deliver, with a crucial focus on really the role of partnerships in generating and communicating evidence from our research, so that we can really in practice affect policy decision making in useful ways and sustainable ways going forward. And this isn't just limited to the UK environment. This, where we find innovative policy solutions, how can we spread and share our learnings in an international stage? And of course, that's particularly important when we have opportunities for further collaboration through things like COP26. So I shall leave it there, Graham.